Thank you very much for organizing the conference and also for having me here. So I continue to focus on the platform's data collection, but I'm gonna just consider one consumer in a dynamic environment. I want to begin with some concrete story, and for this, you can pick up any of your favorite platform. Let me pick up Facebook as an example. In each day, consumer spends time on Facebook browsing news, updating profiles, or making posts. Facebook can then analyze the consumer's browsing behavior or activity to learn about her characteristics, such as political preferences. Then Facebook can turn this information into money, often by improving targeted ads. But platform's data collection and usage may affect consumers' welfare, potentially negative. This may be coming from the intrinsic demand for privacy, or even certain kind of price discrimination based on data, as we said. So I put this as a dynamic model, where a platform gradually learns about consumers' persistent type based on the information generated by consumers. And I want to discuss the dynamic incentives, platform, and the regulator who care about consumers. So this is, given the time constraint, I'm going to mainly focus on the monopoly model. I said, dynamic model, time horizon infinite, and discrete time starting from period 1. There is just one consumer and one platform. In each period T, consumer chooses an activity level denoted by AT. This is any non-negative real number representing how actively the consumer uses the platform. And then the consumer activity generates information about consumer type denoted by X. This type is drawn from normal distribution with a prior variance sigma squared 0, and it is realized before time 1. And type never changes over time. In this talk, I assume consumer does not observe her own type. But offline, I'm happy to talk how the result extends when the consumer can observe this type of evaluation. Now, consumer activity generates information about type. So in each year, the platform observes two things. One is the activity level. The other is it privately observes a signal, which is X plus epsilon T plus D. So there are two noise terms, but anyway, this is the information about consumer type. Now, the variance of epsilon T is 1 over activity level, meaning if the consumer raises the activity level, this reduces the variance of noise epsilon T and makes the signal more informative about the consumer type. So there's a mechanical relationship between how actively I use platform and how much information will be generated. But there is another noise term, Dt, whose variance is a gamma T. And I call this gamma T a privacy level of the platform in period T. So if gamma T is high, that means that this signal is less informative about a consumer type. So this gamma T represents privacy. And this is going to be the choice of that platform. And all the random variables are independent within period and across periods, but type never changes. So the point here, yep.
You would have made the variance of epsilon gamma plus 1 over A. Would it change the
doesn't change. That's equivalent. So the point here is that consumer activity generates information, the quality of which is increasing in the activity level, decreasing in the privacy. And then let me show you how the information enters the payoff of each player. The platform's payoff in period T, undiscounted payoff, is a sigma squared 0, the prior variance we just saw for normalization, minus sigma squared T. This is a conditional variance about the consumer's type given Bayes rule, and all the information generated up to period T, including period. So this is an endogenous object. And if the platform has more information, it can more precisely estimate the consumer's type. So the sigma squared T lower, the payoff is higher. This is a black box way of capturing the idea that platform can raise more revenue by having more information about the consumer. And as we can see, the payoff is increasing in the past activity levels. And fixing the activity levels, the payoff is decreasing in the past privacy levels. And platform is patient, discounting future payoffs with some discount. Okay, so platform is happy by having more information. The consumer, in contrast, cares about two things. The first term of the consumer's period T profit payoff is the gross benefit from the service, which depends only on the activity level in a deterministic way. So this function U is a non-primitive. This is a strictly concave and maximized at some interior level, A term. But consumer cares about privacy. So the second term is a privacy cost term, always non-negative. And this V is a non-primitive. This is some non-negative number capturing the consumer's value for privacy. Why privacy? Because if platform has more information, again, sigma squared T is smaller, higher privacy cost, a lower consumer.
Just to clarify, the payoff from the intrinsic payoff from the activity is type independent?
Intrinsic payoff from activity is type independent. Yeah. The type X is payoff irrelevant. Yeah. So only how much platform knows about consumer's type enters. Yeah. Probably the item borrow the dark formation might be able to microfound, but type X is the payoff irrelevant. And V is no, nothing to do with the private. V is no. And for the moment, let me assume consumer is myopic. In the paper, I have a discussion of how the results extend when consumer is patient and fortunate. So platform is happy, consumer is unhappy if the platform has more information. Now, as to the timing, first, platform chooses a privacy policy, which is an infinite sequence of privacy levels. And privacy level in period of T, remember, is that gamma T, which is a variance of noise for the signal in period. So higher privacy levels means a commitment to acquire or monetize less information generated by the consumer's activity. Then after observing this, consumer myopically chooses an activity level. And I take the previous sigma squared T as a primitive. This is a deterministic function of activity and privacy levels. So I just adapt subgame perfect equilibrium with some time break. So one of the results I'm going to show you is the result doesn't change even when platform has a much weaker commitment power. But this Stark-Gerber platform is the baseline. So I hope the model is simple enough. So let me do some equilibrium, and I'll follow the backward deduction. So forget about platform for a second. Let's consider the consumer's incentive. A consumer is myopic. So we can just focus on the problem of choosing an activity level for period T to maximize the within period. And AT appears in the first term, gross benefit from service, also implicitly appears in the sigma squared, because conditional variance at the end of today is a function of the conditional variance at the end of yesterday, and privacy level and activity level today jointly determine the quality of information today.
What? It's not a subgame. I mean, because the consumer is myopic, it's simply a Markov decision problem, right?
Yeah. That's equivalent. Yeah, for the forward-looking dice. So consumer myopic. So consumer takes the gamma T privacy level and sigma squared T minus 1 conditional variance from yesterday and choose the activity level to maximize the balancing the marginal benefit and marginal cost of using the platform. And so I want to show some lemma about how the marginal cost of using the platform depends on the past information, which echoes some of the discussion from the morning. So let's see, T denotes the privacy cost term. This is a level of the cost. And then here is the lemma. The marginal cost of using the platform raising an activity level is increasing in sigma squared T minus 1. But flipping, this means that if platform has more information, so consumer has less privacy, then sigma squared T minus 1 is small, so consumer faces a lower marginal cost for using the platform. So roughly speaking, since Amazon knows everything about me, I don't care about putting Alexa in the link. And in particular, if the consumer has no privacy, platform exactly knows X, then consumer faces 0 marginal. So the key feature of this model is that if the platform has more information and the consumer has less privacy, this is associated with a lower consumer welfare, but the consumer has higher marginal incentive to use that. And this is driving pretty much all the results of this. Now, so having this lemma in mind, so I'd like to show you the first result about dynamics. Actually, this is a result about a equilibrium of a particular subgame in which the platform chooses a stationary privacy policy, setting gamma t equal to gamma across all t. So here is the sum of the notation that I want to mention. So basically, I show the following. If the platform sets a stationary privacy policy, then we can find some cutoff with respect to V, such that if the value of privacy V is above the cutoff, consumer sets 0 activity level. But as we see in the slide, if the V is below the cutoff, then first consumer activity level is increasing positive and increasing over time. Intuitively, if the consumer doesn't care about privacy too much, she sets the positive activity level initially, and this produces information, lower consumer payoff, and reduces her marginal cost. So tomorrow, consumer chooses a higher activity level, generating more information, lower marginal cost, and so on and so on. So this implies activity level increasing over time. That means platform can accumulate a lot of signals to eventually perfectly learn the consumer's type as t goes to infinity. And in this limit, consumer loses all privacy. That means there is nothing to lose on the margin. So consumer acts as if cost is 0, marginal cost goes 0. So consumer's activity level converges to A star, which only maximizes the gross benefit from service, not taking into account the privacy. In the paper, I have some discussion about some comparative statistics. In particular, I show that if regulator jumps in, forces the platform to raise this baseline privacy level, then this can lower the long-run undiscounted payoff of the consumer. So if the regulator is very patient compared to the consumer, then higher privacy level may be detrimental from the regulator's perspective. So the one thing I want you to remember is this happens only when V is not too high. So consumer who cares about privacy a lot just doesn't join the platform. This is a subgame. And then the next is probably the main result when the platform can choose any privacy.
Can you go back? So you're saying that for a fixed value of cutoff, which mu below the cutoff, this is non-monotonic in gamma.
This cutoff is monotonically increasing.
No. So fix the cutoff as a function of gamma. The consumer's payoff is non-monotonic.
So it's a consumer's first period payoff.
Yeah.
Myopic, so it's increasing in gamma.
I see.
But as gamma increases, roughly speaking, the early period's payoff increases, the later period of payoff decreases. So it's a bit hard to say whether it's good or bad for consumer. All right, so the whole equilibrium, again, same notation, for any value of privacy parameter in any equilibrium, sigma square t goes to 0, and activity level converges to A star. So that means no matter how high consumer cares about privacy, the consumer loses privacy in the long run and behaves as if there is no privacy by the definition of this. This is in contrast to the previous exogenous privacy policy. So obviously the key is how the platform sets a privacy policy. So point 2 says for any calendar time tau, if the consumer cares about privacy a lot, then for any period weekly before tau, the platform sets a positive privacy. But no matter what parameter we pick, as t goes to infinity, privacy level converges to 0. So eventually it's 0 privacy. Here is the quick intuition. In early stage, platform doesn't have much information about the consumer. That means consumer's early activity provides a lot of information for the platform. That means consumer faces a high marginal cost. So if V is super high, consumer may not just use the platform. But then platform can offer a high privacy level to reduce the marginal cost to let the consumer to use the platform. So that roughly speaking, early stage platform offers high privacy level and slowly learn the consumer's type. Later, at some point, platform knows a lot about the consumer type, so there is less for the consumer to lose. And then platform can lower the privacy level to speed up learning without deterring the consumer. Yes.
So in a way, consumers have 0 foresight, but perfect recall.
Yeah, but I'm gonna show that point 1 is gonna hold even when consumer is patient and forgiving. So one version of the model, I have the result. I have it for any V, for any discount factor of the consumer, 0.1 holds. I haven't managed to show the 0.213, but long run privacy loss and high activity level in the long run holds for the patient consumer and patient platform, any combination of discount factors. Yes.
Is it the case that even though it holds in the long run, it actually doesn't hurt much? Forward looking?
Yeah, so forward looking, so my guess is that more patient the consumer is, the more slowly the platform learns about the consumer's type. Yeah.
The impact is much smaller of that same limiting result.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's not the case that patient consumer, the absence of platform is better than the presence of the platform. Yeah, I agree. All right, so quick the implication. For consumer, I think I have a lot to say about privacy paradox, but we heard a lot, so I put it in the paper. Another connection is the rational addiction. Namely, if the consumer uses platform today a lot, it generates information, reduces consumer's future payoff, but also reduces the marginal cost of using the platform. So the more consumer uses platform today, the more consumer wants to use the platform in the future. So this connection between a complementarity between present and future consumption is what the Baker-Murphy called the rational addiction. In particular, the platform usage today lowers the consumer's payoff in the future. That's the harm of addiction. So the privacy problem as an addiction problem is one way to remember. Now about a platform, so I'm happy to hear if you know any empirical paper, but what I can show today is just that in 2004, Facebook says they will not use cookies to track consumers. In 2020, they say they use cookies to track consumers on the Facebook and possibly off the Facebook. Among possibly numerous explanations, one way to rationalize this seemingly lower privacy level, the relaxing privacy level, is that this is an optimal response to the consumer's declining marginal incentive to protect privacy. So this seems to fit the model prediction of early privacy level early, high privacy level early, but vanishing privacy level.
But if we want to make the competition fair, shouldn't I? So the consumer discounts the future. Let me take the special case. Shouldn't I counterbalance it with all data becoming less and less valuable?
You as a platform?
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise the platform has infinite foresight, no problem in waiting forever, no problem in using infinitely old data. Instead, the consumer doesn't care about the future too much, and therefore at some point they're gonna, the infinitely patient person is gonna capture everything from the impatient one. So can't we counterbalance it by instead letting all data become obsolete at the discount rate?
Obsolete, like erasing the information.
Exactly, the informative data being.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point I want to make. That would, among all the, compared to the many negative results of my paper, letting consumer erase past information is the one thing which that's good for the consumer privacy, for the consumer part of the
But it will be a race between foresight and erasure, right? Like it's just like
how
quickly
so
are you?
A particular model where consumer can today I decide whether to erase past information costlessly, and still I incur privacy cost based on the information generated. So in general there's a tension. But my particular extension doesn't capture that. All right, so in the paper, I also consider the characterization of the platform's equilibrium policy. Paper has a characterization, but basically I show that platform is patient, but basically in equilibrium, it sets privacy level to statically maximize the informativeness of the signal in each period. So the static optimization coincides with the dynamic optimization. And consumer myopia important, but I think the equally important reason for this is that consumers decreasing marginal privacy cost of using the platform. Because of this, as long as the platform has a one period commitment power, as opposed to the infinite future commitment to privacy policy, we get exactly the same. Now, so for the monopoly case, we have the long-run privacy loss, high activity level, and vanishing privacy level by the platform in the long run. I want to show you some extension of whether competition does something. We can think of the many versions of the competition, but here is what I'm going to analyze. So initially, there is only one incumbent in the market, but in the future, there is going to be the entrant. And I want to ignore the strategic entry. So suppose this T star entry time is exogenous, deterministic, unknown to the incumbent from the very beginning. Before entry, again, consumer myopically interacts with the incumbent, choosing some activity. After entry, consumer chooses the activity level for incumbents and the one for the entrants. And to introduce the competition, I assume single homing, namely at most one of the activity levels can be found. And I put some upper bound on the privacy levels to make sure solution. Now, so whichever time we focus on, consumer activity generates information, which allows the platform to learn about a consumer's type. Platform's payoff is the same reduction of the conditional variance. Consumer's payoff before entry looks same as a monopoly. After entry, consumer gets per period payoff is a payoff from the incumbent plus a payoff from the entrant. Now, so one important implication of this payoff specification is that even when at some point I switch to the entrant and never go to the incumbent, I continue to incur privacy cost potentially based on the information collected by the incumbent in the past. But this privacy cost is a sunk, so consumer's decision in the model is based on the marginal privacy cost of using the platform, not the level of the privacy cost. All right, now, so there can be many equilibria. This is a dynamic game with 2 patient players, but let me show you one particular equilibrium. So one caveat regardless of commitment power, meaning we can think of the game where platforms set privacy levels at the beginning of each day, or platforms committing to the privacy policy at the beginning of the first or T star period T star. But either regime, there exists an equilibrium in which the consumer only uses the incumbent. Incumbent offers the vanishing privacy level, and the consumer loses the privacy against the incumbent, yet chooses a high activity level. And also when the market entry is known to be sufficiently late, T star is large, then there is an equilibrium which exactly coincides with the monopoly in terms of the main outcomes. So either in the long run or even period by period, competition may have no impact on the consumer's payoff and privacy. Let me show you what's going on in this equilibrium. So before entry, consumer uses the incumbent. Incumbent may offer some privacy level, but anyway, consumer uses incumbent, generates information, which lower the consumer's marginal cost of using the incumbent. So in some sense, it's cheaper for the consumer to use the incumbent compared to the entrant because exactly they are similar. So even when entrant offers a somewhat high privacy level, incumbent can always match the privacy level to keep the consumer. But now as T goes to infinity, incumbents gets more and more information, so consumers' marginal cost of using the incumbent goes to 0. So that means even when eventually incumbent offers a vanishing privacy level, the poaching still does not happen. Okay, so in the paper, I also show when the entrant or the poaching can happen, focusing on some asymmetry, the entrant having some advantage over the incumbent. But combining all the results in the paper, the main idea of this competition part is that incumbent's data works as an entry barrier. Incumbent having more data lower the marginal privacy cost, which makes the switching or poaching or market entry less likely to happen. Now, so one thing I think interesting is that, so in this model, higher entry barrier is associated with lower consumer value. So when consumers suffer from privacy loss or get lower payoff, then we might think that a new player like DuckDuckGo can enter and offer a marginally better privacy protection or better service and take away the consumer. But a model says the opposite. The consumers receiving lower payoff from incumbent is exactly when the switching or the poaching is less likely to happen. Okay, so partly responding to the early question. So the one thing within the model that mitigates the problem is to allow the consumer to erase the past information. In a competition model, this eliminates the incumbency advantage, makes the entry more likely to happen, and I have some condition where the competition improves the privacy. And a paper has the patient consumer or endogenous investment in quality by platform and so on. So let me leave the recap slide. I think I'm running out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.